You wake before first light, your breath fogging the felt walls of the gear. The stove's embers have died and silence fills the round space except for the wind threading through wooden poles overhead. You lie still on folded blankets, every muscle stiff and familiar from yesterday's work, tightening ropes, tending animals, moving supplies. Slowly you push aside the quilt and swing your legs onto the cool wooden floor. You rub your hands together, feeling the rough wool of your sleeve. Soft ochre light slips through the canvas, but outside remains muted grey, an in-between moment before sunrise. You shuffle to the iron stove and lift its metal lid. A faint puff of smoke drifts up the chimney. You arrange a few dry sticks from a small pile and strike a match. The flame catches, crackling as it spreads. Soon, warmth radiates from the stove, chasing away the chill. A cast iron kettle sits on a tripod. You fill it with water drawn last night from the nearby stream and set it over the fire. The hiss is the first real sound of morning, promising tea. While waiting for the water to boil, you move around the gear. Felt walls, layers of compressed wool stitched to the wooden lattice, hold heat inside. You brush your hand along the slightly rough texture, knowing that under winter's cold it traps warmth, and in summer it deflects heat. Above, the circular tonneau lets in a bit of light, so you never feel completely enclosed. A low wooden table stands at the centre of the space. On it rests a small bowl of arul, dried curds made from boiled milk. A skin bag of sork from yesterday's milking lies nearby. You lift the lid of the bowl, savouring the faint tang of fermented dairy. Though you could eat it now, you decide to wait until after saddling your horse. Instead, you tip a handful into your mouth. It crunches softly between your teeth, a quick, steadying bite until the main meal. The kettle begins to hiss sharply. You pour hot water into a small bowl, adding a handful of loose tea leaves. As the tea steeps, its aroma drifts through the gear, mingling with the faint tang of animal hair and yesterday's smoke. You bring the bowl to your lips, savouring the bitterness as it slides down your throat. Warmth spreads through you, chasing away the last of sleep. Outside the gear's flap you hear movement. Someone else is awake, stacking firewood. You lift the flap and a gust of wind swirls fine steppe dust inside. You quickly close it, trapping warmth again. Your eyes adjust to pale morning light. The ground is firm from overnight cold, and thin ribbons of mist curl above low grasses. Through the flap you see two children near a pile of wood, hushed but busy. They wear heavy deals over thick underlayers. Their small red hands gather branches from juniper shrubs. Nearby, a bundle of ropes and a saddle lean against the lattice. Someone has brought the horse closer, tethering it to a peg in the earth. You step outside, cold bites at your face. The thin air tastes of dust and dried grass, mixed with the faint tang of animal sweat. Your horse stands nearby, its coat fluffed for winter, breath steaming with each exhale. Leather straps creak quietly as it shifts weight. You move close, checking its flanks for dryness and feeling a soft puff of warmth from its body. Turning back toward the gear, you glimpse an older woman, your mother or aunt, lifting blankets from a bed to roll them for storage. Behind her, a calf stands within a woven wood enclosure. It watches you with curious eyes. Its thin coat feels surprisingly warm against your fingertips. A breeze shifts the gear's felt walls, filling the space with a soft rustle. You lean against the felt under the small leaves, letting the stillness of the plain fill you. The steppe seems endless, stretching beyond the gentle rise of distant hills. The grass, once green, lies dry and brittle, mottled brown and gold. Above, the sky is pale lavender, hinting at sunrise. The wind carries a distant cry, perhaps a bird or the faint clop of hooves. As the kettle whistles again, you refill your tea bowl and lift it to your lips. The warmth brightens your chest. You close your eyes briefly, letting heat and stillness fill you. Soon, the sun will send shafts of light across the plain and your tasks will begin. Right now, though, there is only this quiet, the stove's gentle hiss, wind against felt, and the steady breath of your family stirring to life. From inside the gear, another family member emerges holding a small cloth of dried fruits and nuts, today's first snack. They nod to you, and you raise your bowl in silent greeting. There is no hurry, the horse will wait. You take a moment to straighten your deal, tugging the fabric over your shoulders and tightening the leather belt at your waist. Beneath, a thick undershirt will keep you warm when the wind picks up. Your sturdy, leather boots are laced tight to keep any chill out. One child tugs at the door's felt flap and crawls inside to help roll blankets. The other fans embers until they glow. Soon they'll boil milk for tea. You let a small smile touch your face. Every hand helps here, and every person has a role. You finish your tea and set the bowl aside. It's time to gather tools. You move toward a stack of wooden poles leaning against the lattice, needed later to set up a simple corral. Beneath them, your saddle and a rolled blanket wait. You lift the blanket, fold it neatly. Its felt lining will protect the horse's spine. Glancing at the horizon, you note the lavender sky shifting to pale gold. The wind has settled, leaving the plain almost impossibly still. Only muted murmurs come from your family and the distant bleat of sheep. There will be no sudden storms today, just a calm morning to ease into work. You step inside the gear to retrieve your leather satchel, moving quietly so as not to disturb others. Inside, a small knife, coarse thread, and metal nails await. Tools for any unexpected fixes. On a low shelf rests a wooden box of memories, a photograph of a spring herd, a drawing of snow-heavy hills. You glance at them but do not linger. Today is for living tasks. Before departing, you tie a cloth to the door's heft, holding it open just enough for sunlight to stream in. The felt shifts in a soft rustle. You breathe in the mixed scents of tea, dried grass, and the faint musk of animal hair. A moment of calm settles over you, like the last breath before action. Stepping through the doorway, you draw the felt flap close behind you. The warmth of the gear already feels distant, but you carry its comfort inside, like a small lantern. You look over the cluster of gears, soft round silhouettes against the plain, smoke curling steadily from each chimney. Your family moves busily, but you pause to let morning fill you. The weight of clothes, the promise of work ahead, the sense of belonging to this land. In a few moments, you will saddle your horse and step onto the vast blue-grey grassland. The herd will wait, their low calls drifting like whispers. You will tighten leather straps, feel the horse shift beneath you and ease into motion. This is the turning point, when stillness meets the world beyond, and so you lift your saddle, place it on the horse's back, and secure each strap. The horse flicks its ears but stands patiently. You swing your leg over its flank and settle into the blanket's felt cushion. The rhythmic breathing of the horse steadies your own pulse. Ahead, the herd shifts, their bodies swaying as they graze. A few lambs gambol near their mothers. You take the reins and guide the horse forward, across frost-kissed grass toward them. The wind picks up at your back, stirring hope in your chest. As you ride away, the gear cluster shrinks behind you, its soft shapes fading against the pale sky. You let your gaze sweep over rolling hills, low shrubs, and distant ridges marking the plain's edge. Your task for the day lies ahead, tending animals, reading the land's signs, feeling each moment in this vast, quiet world. Soon you will guide the herd to fresh pasture. Your horse moves steadily beneath you, hooves muffled by the cold, dry earth. The air is sharper here, away from the warmth of the gear. The plains open wide, quiet except for the wind brushing through the dry grasses and the faint, distant bleating of animals. You adjust your seat, feeling the soft creak of leather straps, your knees gripping the saddle blanket, your body syncing with the horse's rhythm. Ahead, the herd is already stirring. Sheep, goats, and a few yaks clumped together in a loose cluster, drifting slowly across the land. Their coats are thick now, heavy with the dust of winter. You click your tongue softly. Your horse responds, speeding up slightly. You let the reins loosen, trusting its steps across the uneven ground. As you near, the animals begin to shift. A few heads lift. Eyes blink. Ears turn. You guide your horse in a wide arc, circling slowly around the edge of the herd, not to startle them, just enough to signal it's time to move. They understand. Instinct does the rest. You dismount. The grass crunches underfoot. Kneeling, you inspect a hoofprint in the dirt, still damp from last night's frost. Good. The soil here is soft but not sinking, a good patch for grazing. As you stand, your fingers trail along a nearby goat's back. Its coat is full, clean enough, but you note a faint scratch on its side. Nothing serious. Still, you'll remember to check again later. You whistle once, low and steady. Your dog, thin and alert, comes bounding up from behind a small rise. Its ears twitch. You point toward the slowest group of sheep, and without words, it bolts off, circling behind, guiding them forward with sharp, agile turns. It's always the same rhythm. You watch the herd spread out in search of grass, noses to the ground, stepping steadily. Their hooves mark the earth in crooked patterns. You walk among them, scanning bodies for signs of illness or injury. One sheep limps, its rear leg caught in some bramble yesterday perhaps. You note it but don't stop yet. First, you lead them toward water. About 20 minutes' walk from camp, a narrow stream threads through the plain, half covered with frost but still running clear in places. You direct the herd that way, clicking and waving gently. One or two goats break off, but your dog chases them neatly back. As the herd lowers their heads to drink, you breathe deeply. The morning light has sharpened. The sky above is crisp and pale blue. No clouds today, just a long stretch of open air from horizon to horizon. In the distance, smoke rises from another camp, a neighbour, maybe 2 kilometres away. You note it. These landmarks matter. You kneel again by the stream. Your hands scoop up the cold water. It bites at your skin, but you let it wash over your palms, clearing sleep from your body. A sip tastes of stone and mountain melt. Your horse drinks nearby, its nostrils flaring as it exhales warm mist. When the animals have had their fill, you walk slowly along the edge of the herd, encouraging them to graze along a fresh patch of grassland. You spot a half-buried fence post, a reminder of a boundary set long ago, now barely respected by wind or animal. Out here the land is both everyone's and no one's. You mount again, scanning the horizon. Far to the east, birds scatter from a rocky outcrop. You mark the time roughly by the sun's rise. Late morning already. The herd moves calmly now, spread in a soft fan shape. Animals dotting the slope in quiet rhythm. You sit back in your saddle and watch. There is no rush. The day unfolds slowly out here. You ride gently along the edge of the group, feeling the horse's breath rise and fall. Your eyes move across the animals, wool rippling in the breeze, hooves kicking up dust, tails flicking lazily. You know each of them more by movement than by face. The old goat that always lags, the small white lamb that sticks close to its mother. You carry their patterns in your mind like a second map. Sometimes you sing under your breath, not loudly, just enough for the sound to live between you and the wind. These are old songs, passed from your elders, half remembered, but they keep time. They remind you not to drift too far into your thoughts. You spend some time clearing a patch of broken brush. It's small work, moving a pile of fallen twigs, unlooping a bit of discarded wire. But it matters. Each day the land gives you something new to notice, to fix, to adapt to. After a while the sun warms your shoulders, the animals grow sluggish. A few begin to lie down in the softest spots. That's the sign. You tug gently at the reins and circle back toward the stream. There you'll rest. Maybe open your satchel for a bite of dried meat and flatbread. Maybe just lie down with your head against a saddlebag and let your ears fill with the hum of quiet grazing. The work is simple, but the peace is full. You look over your shoulder. The herd grazes in a calm rhythm. The dog lies nearby, watching with half-lidded eyes. All is well for now. You settle in by the stream, pulling your coat tighter, your back against a rock warmed by sun. As you chew on a piece of tough smoked meat, your stomach settles. The morning's labour is done. Next comes the comfort of food and fire. And so you think of home, of the gear, the kettle still warm, the scent of milk and smoke that always lingers. Soon you'll ride back, your hands dusted with earth, your mind slow and quiet. You ride back slowly, letting the horse pick its path across the shallow ridges. Behind you, the herd grazes lazily in the patch of pasture you've chosen. For now, they're content. The dog trots a short distance behind, tongue lolling, ears still alert but relaxed. You pass the stream again, the midday light shimmering off its slow surface, and trace the trail of hoofprints left in the morning. As your camp comes into view, 3 gears clustered together like pale shells resting on the steppe, you feel your stomach respond to the nearness of warmth, of fire, of food. Smoke rises gently from the stovepipe. There's a faint scent on the wind now, fat melting, tea steeping, milk warming. You shift your weight in the saddle, eager. Dismounting, you lead your horse to its tether near the others. The animal nudges your side before lowering its head to drink from a leather bucket. You pat its flank, then make your way toward the gear. Inside, the air is thick with comfort. The stove is alive again, wood crackling under a black kettle, and the familiar layers of scent wrap around you. Smoke, wool, fermented milk, and a trace of meat cooking in a pot. A younger cousin sits cross-legged near the hearth, stirring slowly. Her sleeve is pushed up to her elbow, revealing a hand stained slightly from curdling milk earlier. You unlatch your boots and step inside. The floor is warm from the stove's heat. You move to a basin in the corner and wash your hands with warm water from a ladle, drying them on a cloth hung beside the door. Your aunt nods from the far side of the gear. She's kneading dough, strong fingers pressing rhythmically into the pale, elastic surface. It will be rolled thin and cut into strips soon. Noodles for the day's soup. She doesn't speak, only gestures with her chin. Behind her, a large bowl rests covered in a cloth. You lift it back gently and find fresh curds, soft and warm, the result of milk separated just this morning. You take a small piece between your fingers. It's still pliable, not yet dried into arrul. It smells sour and clean. Outside, the milk pail clinks faintly. You step back out into the sun, blinking as your eyes adjust. A wooden frame has been set up near the gear's edge. A yurt frame turned milking station. One of the older women squats near a goat, her fingers moving quickly and skillfully. Milk strikes the bottom of the aluminum pail in a soft, steady rhythm. A calf bleats nearby, its lead tied to a low post, watching. You sit beside her, knees bent, and reach for a second pail. The goat shifts slightly but doesn't protest. You find the rhythm easily. Thumb and forefinger, then the rest follow. Warm milk splashes against metal, frothy and white. Steam rises from the pail as it fills. You work in silence, the sound of milk joining with the breeze. When the pail is nearly full, you carry it back toward the gear, careful not to spill. Inside, it will be strained, boiled, or fermented depending on the day. Today, most will go into making suti tsai, salted milk tea, a staple. You lift the kettle lid and pour the milk inside, stirring briefly as the mixture begins to warm. Your aunt adds a pinch of salt and a few dark tea leaves. She doesn't measure. Her hands know the right weight. You crouch beside her, watching the liquid swirl. The scent rises, earthy, creamy, faintly bitter. This tea will be served in bowls, not cups, and drunk with small bites of dried curd or boiled meat. Once the tea is ready, she ladles it into ceramic bowls and passes one to you. The warmth seeps through your hands. You take a slow sip. The salt is subtle, just enough to balance the richness of the milk. You chew a piece of arul alongside it, dry, brittle and sharp against your teeth. The textures complement each other, a pairing repeated 1,000 times. Lunch begins without ceremony. You sit cross-legged around the stove, a low wooden tray in the centre. The soup comes next, thick, rich broth, filled with mutton, bones and soft slices of noodle. A thin layer of fat glistens on the surface, and steam rises as you lean in. You're handed a bone with meat still clinging to it. You hold it with your fingers, tearing meat away with your teeth, letting the juices coat your tongue. The flavour is deep, salty, dense, not spiced but full of its own wildness. The animal was slaughtered only days ago. Nothing is wasted. Beside the soup, a plate of bourse, dried meat sliced thin, sits for snacking. It's tougher than cooked meat, requiring effort, but it holds well through long winters. You chew slowly, taking time. No one rushes the meal. Conversation is soft, mostly about animals, neighbours, the forecast. Someone mentions the wind changing direction, and your uncle nods, glancing toward the smoke drifting from the chimney. A younger boy dips his bread into the soup, letting it soak, then bites into the warm softness. The table is quiet except for the clink of spoons, the low murmur of voices and the soft creak of the gear shifting slightly in the wind. After eating, the table is cleared. Bowls are stacked, scraps are fed to the dogs outside who wait patiently, tails thumping against the ground. You sit back leaning against a rolled felt mat and feel the fullness settle in your stomach. Not heavy, just content. Your hands still smell faintly of milk and meat. You rub your fingers together absently, your eyes drawn to the stove's flickering glow. The air is warm and dim, a lull settling in as the wind whispers against the canvas. Outside, someone starts boiling milk again, this time to make airag. The mare's milk is poured into a skin bag, where it will be stirred and fermented over several days. It will sour and bubble, turning into the slightly alcoholic fizzy drink passed around in the evenings. Not much is made in the colder months, but there's always a little stored away. You help lift one of the leather bags and begin stirring with a long paddle. Each stroke matters. Airag must be agitated often. The scent is sharp, a bit sweet, a bit like yogurt left in the sun. Your arms grow tired quickly. You pass the paddle to someone else and sit back again, listening to the steady slap of wood against hide. Near the gear's edge, another cousin begins preparing arul for drying. Curds are shaped into small ridged blocks, then spread on a wooden tray to harden in the open air. The sun will dry them slowly over days, transforming the soft curds into dense, chalky snacks. You help arrange the pieces, fingers sticky with milk. Each one is pressed gently, not too hard. You've done this since you were a child. The process never changes. A warm breeze begins to blow, rustling the drying cloths and spinning dust near the horse line. The animals shift in their tethers. The smell of dung, wool and sunlight drifts faintly through camp. You sit for a while longer, watching the shadows shift. The stove's warmth fades as the sun climbs higher, and your body begins to feel drowsy from food and effort. This is the quietest time of day. Not many words are spoken. Everyone moves slower. Your aunt begins humming, a low repetitive tune. It's not meant for performance, it's just something to fill the space. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the sound blend with the wind and the distant bleating of animals. There is more to do later, tools to mend, ropes to check, children to mind. But for now, you sit still. The meal is finished. The stomach is full. The fire is steady. The world outside can wait. Soon you will move again. Perhaps sit outside with others, let conversation drift, or lie down with your back against the warm side of the gear. You move slowly, stepping out of the gear and into the open light. The sun now sits higher, no longer casting long morning shadows, but instead spreading a gentle brightness across the land. The air is dry and quiet. Even the wind has softened, no longer carrying urgency, just the occasional flutter through the grasses. Around you, the camp has grown quiet. The dogs sleep in the shade of a cart, their ears twitching as they dream. Horses stand lazily at their lines, shifting their weight now and then, tails flicking to chase the occasional fly. The herd grazes distantly, small dots against the land. You find a spot on the sunlit side of the gear where the wall casts a shallow strip of shade. A wool mat is already laid out, faded at the edges, its surface pressed flat from many days like this one. You sit with your back against the curve of the felt wall, knees drawn slightly up, arms resting loose. A kettle inside the gear hisses faintly. Someone is pouring more tea, but no one calls you. There is no need. In this hour, everything moves more slowly. People speak only if they must. Even the children, usually loud and darting, are quiet now. A few of them sit near the tether lines, braiding scraps of wool into little cords or tracing shapes in the dirt with sticks. Not far off, your uncle is sharpening a knife. He doesn't glance up. The stone slides in steady rhythm along the blade. Scrape, scrape, pause. The sound is small and far off. Behind him, a neighbour has arrived on horseback. They speak in low tones, nodding between sentences, not rushing to the point. Their conversation is slow, like the turning of a stone in your hand. You lean back. Your eyes drift toward the horizon, where the steppe stretches endlessly. No fences, no roads, just the endless curve of land meeting sky. Sometimes a bird will cut across the blue, wings steady, silent but purposeful. Other times a wisp of cloud will drift, pulling a long shadow behind it. The land accepts all of it. Movement, stillness, everything. Your body begins to feel heavy. Not tired, just deeply calm. The warmth of the sun rests against your skin. You draw your coat under your chin and let your head tilt back slightly. From this position, the sky fills your view. It is endless. A bowl of pale blue, deeper at the edges, soft and alive. Beside you, someone sighs. A cousin, maybe. They settle down without a word, stretching their legs, arms folded behind their head. No one asks for space. You simply find it where you can. There's a shared understanding in the quiet hours. A thread of talk begins nearby. Two elders, sitting just outside another gear, exchange memories. Their voices are low and rhythmic, not telling stories so much as remembering pieces of old days. When winters were colder, when herds were larger, when someone's horse outran the storm. You don't catch every word, but their tone is enough to carry meaning, memory, humour, patience. Their laughter is soft, like wind brushing canvas. Your eyes close for a few minutes. You don't sleep, not fully. Instead, you drift just below waking, listening to the steady hush of the steppe. A horse stomps once. The kettle lid clicks inside the gear. A sparrow calls from the cartwheel. Then footsteps on packed earth. You open your eyes to see a younger sibling or cousin holding out a bowl. More tea. You take it without speaking, feeling the smooth rim, the warm liquid inside. The scent is familiar. Milk, salt, and a trace of smoke. You sip slowly. Each mouthful draws your thoughts back inward. You feel your breath deepen. A short distance away, a group of children have gathered stones and set up a rough circle. They're playing a guessing game, hiding pebbles under hats and pointing fingers in turn. Their voices rise and fall with excitement, but even they are quieter than usual. No shouts, no running, just soft giggles, quiet challenges. The midday hush settles over everyone. You listen to a story unfolding nearby, an old man retelling a tale of a storm that bent a tree sideways and how a rider once slept through it under a blanket of snow. He tells it with dry humour, as though it barely matters whether the story is true. No one questions it. These tales aren't told for truth, but for texture, for the feel of a life shaped by wind and land. Time passes without your noticing. There is no clock, just the sun inching west, and the feel of your limbs slowly wanting to stretch again. You glance at your hands, dirt under the nails, a small scab near your thumb from earlier in the week. Nothing urgent, nothing that can't wait. You shift your position, rolling your shoulders, feeling the stiffness of rest. Across the camp, others are doing the same, standing, brushing dust from their sleeves, returning to small tasks. The stillness breaks gradually like ice melting into water. Your uncle finishes sharpening his blade and tests it against a strand of wool. It parts cleanly. He nods once and tucks it into his belt. A woman emerges from the gear carrying a saddlebag that needs mending. She sits on a stool, needle in hand, threading the leather carefully. The rest period is ending, not suddenly, not by call or alarm, just by rhythm. The same rhythm that governs the animals, the meals, the sky. You stand, brushing off your pants, and stretch your arms overhead. Your eyes scan the camp. No urgency, just awareness. There's always something to do. Small things that keep the life here held together. You pick up a frayed rope from beside the gear. It's rough in your hands, stiff with dust and weather. With a practiced tug, you coil it neatly. The fibres scrape lightly against your palms. Nearby, others are moving too. The camp shifts from rest to rhythm, not loudly, not suddenly, just the natural return of motion. There's no list, no formal plan, but everyone knows what needs to be done. A boy crouches beside a saddle, oiling the leather with a rag soaked in fat. He moves slowly, pressing the cloth in small circular motions. The smell of grease and dust rises from the worn hide. His hands are stained, but steady. You nod to him in passing. Near the wooden cart, your aunt is mending a canvas covering. She threads thick cord through the fabric using a curved bone needle, pulling each stitch tight with her teeth. The canvas flaps gently in the breeze. Her lips move slightly as she counts the spacing. She doesn't look up. You walk toward the well. It sits a few dozen paces from the gear, framed by a ring of flat stones. A wooden bucket waits beside it. As you haul it up, the rope creaks over the pulley. Cool, clear water rises slowly and a few drops fall back in, tapping the surface like light rain. You carry the bucket back carefully, avoiding the spill of cold against your legs. Next, you check the tack. The horse gear is laid out on a low rack. Bits, bridles, rope halters. Some pieces are still damp from morning dew. You run your fingers along the stitching of a headstall, testing for wear. One strap is thinning. You set it aside for repair. Nearby, two children are tasked with gathering dung for fuel. They laugh as they chase each other between the drying piles, hands wrapped in cloth as they scoop it into a basket. It's light and earthy, almost weightless when dry. They stack it near the fire pit, where it will burn later with a sharp, dry heat. Your hands find work almost without thought. You knot rope ends. You scrub a saddle blanket. You check the tie lines where the young horses are staked, adjusting a pin that's worked itself loose in the soil. The ground is dry, cracked slightly where the sun has baked it hard. You push the stake deeper, listening to the dull crunch beneath the surface. An elder walks past, leaning slightly on a carved walking stick. They say nothing, but they pause to inspect a tool left out in the sun. A moment later, they tuck it under their arm and move on. There's no blame, just a quiet correction. You take a worn cloth and wipe dust from the side of the cart. Its wooden panels bear marks of travel, scratches, sun stains, the faint memory of old paint. This cart has moved across more land than you can name. You wonder how many nights it has sat under stars, how many times it has been packed, repacked, lifted and left to rest again. A younger cousin drags a bag of wool scraps from inside the gear. Together you sort them. White, brown, mixed fibres. Some are soft and clean, ready for felting. Others are tangled with grass or burrs and will need combing. You press a piece between your fingers. It's warm and coarse, smelling faintly of sheep and sun. From the drying rack near the fire pit, you collect strips of boiled meat and hang them higher, away from the dogs. The air is dry enough to preserve it quickly. Already the edges have hardened. It will be ready soon, chewy, smoky, full of energy for the next journey. Someone is hammering a tent peg. The dull thuds blend into the background. The rhythm of the camp working. A pair of boots lie drying in the sun. A child is brushing a goat. A young girl is spinning a thread from twisted wool, her tongue poking from the corner of her mouth in concentration. Every motion is small, but each one adds to the wholeness of life here. Without these acts, the gear would lean. The animals would wander. The tools would weaken. This is the life between storms and celebrations. The simple, necessary middle. The wind picks up slightly. It runs through your sleeves, stirring the dust where you've swept. You pause to drink from a bowl of water, letting it sit cool in your mouth before swallowing. Your face is warm. Your shirt sticks slightly at the shoulders, but the work feels right. It fits the day. In the distance, you hear the sound of hooves. You glance up. A small group of horses is being led closer to camp. Young ones. Their heads are high, their ears alert. Someone is calling instructions, guiding them toward the picket line. Evening is coming and it's time to work with the animals again. Not for labour now, but for joy, for pride. You set your tools aside. There's dust on your knees and rope burn across your palm, but you feel settled. The camp is in order. The gear is repaired. The chores are done, or nearly so. And so the rhythm shifts once more, this time toward movement, toward strength and excitement, toward the evening sound of hooves striking earth and the proud sweep of manes. The herd is nearer now, drawn closer to camp by quiet calls and the shifting angle of the sun. You walk toward the picket lines, where several horses are already tied, their heads bobbing, tails flicking with lazy rhythm. The air feels different now, lighter, expectant. There's movement in the breeze, and in the way people speak again with energy in their voices. You untie a young chestnut mare, still a little wild around the edges. Her eyes are alert, her breath warm as it puffs against your shirt. She dances a half step as you check her hooves. Her coat is rougher than the older horses, but clean. She needs movement, more than a grazing line allows. Today is her chance. A saddle is prepared. Low wooden frame, narrow leather pads tied snug with wool rope. There's no need for decoration, not today, but the pride is still there. You see it in how the gear is brushed clean, how the girths are double-checked, how even the knots are tied with care. Around the camp, others are doing the same. Boys and girls help lead in the young colts. The older riders whisper to their horses as they stroke noses and check hooves. There's quiet reverence here. No shouting, no haste. Every horse is known, every gait and scar familiar. Once ready, you swing into the saddle in a quick, practiced motion. There's no heavy ceremony, just the creak of leather and the twitch of muscle under you as the horse adjusts. You ease her forward slowly, letting her feel the weight, the command in your knees, the shape of the path. You head out across the open plain, not far, just far enough that the camp fades to a cluster of round shapes behind you. The wind picks up as you ride, it tugs at your coat, flattens the grass ahead. The mare wants to run, and you let her. She stretches into a gallop, long, low strides pounding the earth. You lean forward, the saddle narrow beneath you, the rhythm of hooves steady and fast. Dust kicks behind you in soft clouds. There is no sound but wind and the beat of speed. For a while, it's just movement, no thought, just the body, the horse, the line of horizon always ahead. You feel her power, young and not yet fully shaped, but full of promise. Her breath sharpens. Yours does too. When you turn back, the sky is beginning to shift. The sun leans west, casting gold across the steppe. Other riders have emerged. Some train in pairs, trotting in loose loops around one another. Some race short bursts between points, posts, rocks, the edge of a hill. An elder watches from horseback, arms folded. He doesn't call out. He doesn't need to. He sees everything. Form, control, the balance between rider and animal. A nod here, a glance there. That's enough. In another part of the camp, young children sit on folded mats, brushing the manes of their ponies. One girl plats ribbons into her horse's hair, humming quietly. Her pony stands still, ears twitching with each breath. A boy walks in a wide circle, leading a tiny woolly foal with a rope made from braided goat hair. He talks to it softly, repeating a phrase over and over. You catch only part of it. Something about the wind, about trust. He's too young to ride it yet, but he already belongs to the world of horses. You dismount. The mare is slick with sweat. You walk her gently in a circle, letting her cool. Her flanks rise and fall. Her ears twitch at every sound. Dogs barking, another horse whinnying. The faint hum of conversation across the camp. Back near the gear, someone begins tightening a racing girth. A lean, dark horse paws at the earth. His tail flicks high. He knows what's coming. This one is for speed. Soon, a small race is underway. Nothing formal. Just a run between friends and cousins. Riders line up at a patch of worn earth. No flags, no shouts. A hand drops and they're off. Hooves flying, dust rising, shouts trailing in the wind. You stand with others, watching. Heads tilt. Eyes narrow. A few quiet cheers rise as the horses stretch over the earth, low and fast. By the end, one rider edges just ahead, barely a body length, and slows to a stop with a wide grin. No prizes, just laughter, a pat on the neck, a nod from someone watching. Afterward, the horses are walked slowly, watered carefully, and rubbed down with wool cloth. You help brush the mare's flanks, lifting sweat and dust with long, even strokes. She breathes easier now, her eyes are softer. You whisper thanks against her neck. The energy lingers, light, satisfying, warm in the chest. It's not just a pastime, it's heritage. It's the way bodies and animals move together, a trust that goes deeper than training. As twilight creeps in, the horses are tethered again, fed and left to rest. You watch them a while longer, the way they shift their weight, flick their ears, graze slowly even as the sky darkens. A few people gather closer to the fire. Laughter rises again, but softer now. You hear the first notes of a Morin call, the horsehead fiddle, begin to drift from a nearby gear. Long, low tones like the wind made music. You follow the sound, your steps slow, the rhythm of the ride still echoing in your legs. The day is almost done. The horses are fed and quiet, the dust beginning to settle in the cooling air. Around the camp you notice a subtle change. Extra care taken in brushing manes, children practicing songs, someone unfolding a bright piece of cloth from a travel bag. Tomorrow is different. There's talk of guests arriving by morning, of shared meals and races longer than these small ones. Someone is oiling the good saddle. Someone else is stitching a colourful trim onto a vest. The signs are small, but they ripple outward. The hum beneath the calm, the tension before celebration. You feel it too, that soft lift of anticipation, that quiet joy that travels ahead of a gathering. You wake earlier than usual. The sky is still soft and silver, not yet fully morning, but already the gear feels different. There's movement outside, low voices, a few muffled hoofbeats, the gentle rustle of fabric being unfolded and smoothed by hand. Today is a festival day. You step out into cool air. The sky has cleared overnight and the steppe stretches wide and clean in the pale light. Along the horizon, tiny shapes begin to move. Distant gears, carts, riders. Others are coming. Closer by, the camp is already busy. Your cousins are brushing down the best horses, their hands fast and practiced. Saddles are stacked beside the picket line, some with decorative stitching, others with brass bits polished until they catch the sun. A child walks past balancing a lacquered bowl, filled with curds. You hear laughter, real, open laughter, brighter than on normal days. Someone cracks a joke while tying a sash. Two girls sit cross-legged near the fire, carefully braiding their hair and fixing it with bone pins carved like birds. In the air, something smells sweet. It's rare, an offering saved for days like this. You follow the scent to a shallow pot near the coals. It's thick with cream and millet, honey stirred in slowly. A hand offers you a small bowl. The taste is warm, rich and unexpected, comfort mixed with celebration. More families arrive by mid-morning. Riders trail behind carts pulled by oxen. Children jump down as soon as wheels stop, already chasing one another through the grass. People greet each other with warm smiles, hands clasped together, voices raised in greeting. A few elders sit together under a small canopy, sipping tea and watching the arrivals. Their coats are deep blue and green, trimmed with embroidered symbols. One woman wears a hat shaped like a dome, fur-lined and still stiff from careful storage. It only comes out for events like this. The riders gather near the open field. You join them, mounting your horse again, but today feels different. There's pride in how you sit. The others line up too, boys and girls, some younger, some already grown. No one says much, just a few nods, hands gripping reins. A signal rises, a cloth dropped from a raised hand, and the race begins. Your horse leaps forward beneath you, hooves tearing through dry grass. Around you, others surge ahead, wind tugging at their sleeves. The world narrows to sound and rhythm, breath, hoofbeat, the rush of earth underneath. You don't need to win. That's not the point. The pride is in the running, in riding well, in showing the care and training that brought you both here. By the end, faces are red from wind, eyes bright. Riders dismount and hug each other tightly, grinning. Horses are watered and fed again, rubbed down with wool cloths. A few elders nod their approval. One claps you gently on the shoulder without a word. Elsewhere, the gathering continues. Someone begins a long song on the Morin Kua. Not a quiet one this time, but a lively tune that climbs and circles. Children clap in time, and someone else joins in with a hand drum. Two young men begin a mock wrestling match nearby, dust rising around them in short bursts as they grip and shift, laughing. Food is shared freely. From baskets and wrapped cloth come boiled mutton, thick noodles, dense white curds. A large metal kettle simmers over the fire, bubbling with rich broth. People pass bowls back and forth. No one is left out. You sit with your back to a saddlebag, chewing slowly, eyes scanning the wide sky. A kite flutters high, shaped like a hawk, painted in red. You don't know who flew it. You don't need to. This is what a festival is here. Not grand or decorated, but deeply known. Built from movement, from reunion, from shared effort and old stories. It's woven from what people bring. Horses, laughter, skill, memory. There are no signs, no speeches, just the pulse of something ancient running quietly underneath it all. By late afternoon, the pace softens again. A few carts begin to turn back toward the horizon. The fields grow quiet. A girl walks past, her hair unbraided now, carrying an empty basket. You return to the camp slowly. The dust is thick around your boots. Your horse is tired, and so are you. But it's the good kind of tired, the kind that settles easily into your limbs without complaint. Evening begins to fall. The shadows stretch long. Near the fire, someone hums, not a festival song now, but a slower one, deeper, meant for quiet moments. And now the celebration fades into calm, as it always does. You return to the gear just as the final embers of sunlight skim across the grass. It's cooler now. The last guests have left, the wagons reduced to specks along the horizon. The fire outside is still lit, but it burns lower. No longer for cooking, just warmth. Your boots leave shallow impressions in the dirt. The day's excitement has emptied from your body, replaced by a calm weariness. You pass a few others on the way, some sitting with legs stretched out, sipping warm milk tea, others still tending to animals one last time. But mostly the camp has begun to quiet. Inside the gear, the heat has collected gently. comforting without being stifling. The stove clicks softly, metal adjusting to the fire's rhythm. A few cushions have been pulled into a loose circle near the centre. Someone set the tea bowl down with a soft clink. There's no need to ask what comes next. It's a rhythm everyone knows. The evening is for music, for stories, for the long moments in between. You settle onto a mat, cross-legged. An elder sits nearby, turning a small wooden box in his hands. He opens it slowly, as if unsealing memory, and draws out a slim bow and a short-necked instrument with a carved horse's head at the top, the morincour. The first notes are soft, low and long, stretching like the steppe at dusk. The strings hum in a way that doesn't interrupt the silence but deepens it. The sound doesn't just fill the gear, it rests within it. Each note seems to bend with the wind, slow and aching. Across from you, someone begins to sing. A woman, voice quiet but steady. It's an old song, you've heard it before, but not in a way that feels like repetition. It's a story in melody, about a journey, a horse lost in snow, a fire that stayed lit through storm. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. It travels easily across the small space. Others join in, humming, tapping fingers on knees. The song flows without needing direction. It rises and falls like breath. Then comes a pause, not awkward, just space. In that space, another voice begins. A story this time, nothing rehearsed, just a memory from a season long past. A wolf seen near the river, the way it looked at the herd, the dogs that chased it off. The speaker's hands gesture gently, drawing shapes in the air. Faces around the circle nod, smile, add little details. The memory becomes shared, claimed by more than one. You listen. You don't need to speak, not tonight. The stories shift, meandering from fact to fable. Someone tells of a boy who could speak to birds. Someone else adds a line about a camel who refused to cross a frozen stream and what it meant. The laughter is softer now, more like exhaling. Outside, the wind rises. You hear it tapping lightly against the gear's felt walls. The fire outside must be down to coals by now. The camp has stilled entirely. Then another sound, deeper, stranger. A voice begins to throat sing, Kumei. It comes from someone near the back, someone who hasn't spoken yet tonight. The sound is layered, one tone sliding beneath another, like water under ice. You feel it in your ribs. The music fills the space differently, not with melody, but with texture, something ancient and half-remembered. It feels like the sound the sky would make if it could speak. The song fades, leaving only the whisper of the stove and the creak of leather straps shifting in the night air. Eventually the circle breaks, slowly, naturally. Cushions are pushed aside, tea bowls are gathered, people stretch, nod, yawn. No one says goodnight, but you all know the moment has ended. You step outside again for a moment. The stars have sharpened into full clarity, brilliant, uncountable, hung across the dark like scattered bone-white stones. The wind brushes your cheek. Somewhere nearby, a foal stamps its hoof once in its sleep. You linger there, staring up, not thinking of anything in particular, just watching. And now, with your body relaxed, your breath steady, and your thoughts quieted by song and silence, you're ready to feel your own shape again. You sit down slowly, not from hesitation, but from awareness. Your knees feel it first. They bend with a quiet stiffness that wasn't there this morning. You roll your shoulders gently. The muscles across your back answer with a dull warmth. Not pain, not injury, just the echo of hours in the saddle, of rope coiled and thrown, of weight shifted from arm to arm. The floor beneath you is firm, but it holds the warmth of the stove's last breath. You shift, careful with your movements. You listen, not to sounds outside, but to your body as it settles into rest. This is how you come to understand your health, not through checklists or measurements, but through attention. One of the elders once said, "The land will teach you your limits, the wind will remind you where you're strong." You know what he meant now. You feel it in your joints, your hands, your breath. A small pouch sits near the edge of the bedding, cloth-wrapped and tied with sinew. Inside are herbs, dried leaves, bitter roots, thin curls of bark. You open it and bring it to your nose. The scent is sharp, earthy, comforting. It smells like summer heat and distant mountains. If your head aches, there's a tea for that. If your joints swell, there's a poultice. These remedies aren't written down. They're known, passed by word, shared by memory, adjusted with the seasons. You think of your grandmother's hands gently crushing dry leaves in a stone bowl, adding water warmed by coals, humming to herself. She didn't explain the song. Maybe it wasn't a song at all, just habit or rhythm. Still, you remember it whenever you prepare something for yourself. You lie back now, resting one hand on your stomach. You feel the slow, steady rise and fall of your breath. The room around you is nearly silent, but inside, your body hums. Heart, lungs, warmth. Your thoughts drift to others, to the man who walks with a limp each spring after winter has left its mark, to the boy who fell from a horse last season and laughed even through a bruised rib, to the woman who gathers herbs at dawn not for herself but for whoever needs them. There's pride in resilience, but not bravado. Here, strength is not a thing to shout about. It is expected, quiet, woven into how people move and speak. No one says, "You must endure," but everyone does. There's also honesty. Some days you stay near the gear, not lazy, not afraid, just tired. Some days you wrap your ankle, you sleep longer, you drink more broth. You understand what's needed, and you respond. Your health is shaped by the land, what it gives, what it demands. You eat for energy, not pleasure. You sleep when darkness tells you to. You stretch and work and pause. You don't track steps or heartbeats. You track function, how far you can ride, how many animals you can move, how clearly you can think by sundown. The old know things you haven't yet learned, like how to rest without guilt, how to breathe when pain comes, how to tie a bandage so it stays in place all night. You watch them. You ask when it matters. You listen more than you speak. One of them told you once, "Don't wait to be sick to care for yourself." That stayed with you. You feel it now as you stretch your legs one at a time, working out the tightness behind your knees. Your hands rest on your chest. You feel the steady, patient thump of your own heartbeat. Strong, yes, but more than that, regular, known, a rhythm that's yours. Outside, a few last animals shift in their sleep. A dog yawns. The fire is out, but its scent lingers. Char and smoke. Familiar and safe. The gear is dark, but not silent. You hear your own body, not as noise, but as presence. You're here, and you're whole enough for now. This is what health means here. Not perfection, but awareness. Not avoidance of discomfort, but response. You know what your body has done today, and you understand what it asks of you now. And as you begin to settle more deeply into rest, your thoughts rise like smoke, slow, curling upward. You lie on your back, the thick padding beneath you folding gently around your shape. The gear is still. The fire has faded to embers, and the stove ticks only now and then, like a soft reminder that warmth remains. The hush outside is complete. No more movement from the animals, no voices, no footsteps. Even the dogs are silent now. Your eyes are open, watching the ceiling poles stretch out above you, all meeting at the smoke hole where only darkness sits now. It draws your gaze upward, outward, somewhere beyond the curved roof and into the night beyond it. And so, your thoughts begin to wander. They don't come in words at first, just impressions, dust rising behind a horse, the feel of wool against your palm, the smell of boiled milk, the outline of mountains on a distant horizon. Today has happened. It left its marks, its rhythms, its quiet triumphs. But it's tomorrow you begin to sense floating just out of reach. What will it bring? Will the weather change again? Will the animals scatter or stay close? Will the child with the quick laugh finally learn to tie the saddle straps without help? You think about the others sleeping near you. How they move through their days, through their lives, always just a little different from one another. One more cautious, one more restless, one always humming to herself. You've learned from them without trying, just by living nearby, just by noticing. You remember a phrase you heard once, maybe from an elder, maybe just passing between conversations. The land changes you slowly. You won't notice until you leave. That stays with you now. You wonder what parts of you have shifted, which thoughts were always yours, and which ones grew here, shaped by wind and silence and long rides under open skies. Your mind turns toward the future, not with anxiety, but with curiosity. You wonder what will happen to the herding life. Will it continue strong and simple, or will more families drift toward the towns trading grass for pavement? You don't judge either way, you simply wonder. You think of the children, especially the smallest one who ran after foals with arms too short to reach them. What will her life be like? Will she ride like you do? Will she sing the same songs? Or will she live in a place where the stars are hidden by buildings? None of it feels urgent now. The fire has burned the urgency out of you. What remains is quiet thinking. Not planning, not fixing, just understanding. You reach up once, idly, as if to touch the ceiling poles, but you let your hand fall again. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and in that moment you remember your first night out here. It had been colder than this, the wind had whistled harder, and you had listened to it with unease, not yet knowing what it meant, not yet familiar with the language of distant hooves or the creak of frozen rope. Now those sounds would barely wake you. You've become part of this place in ways you didn't expect, not as an observer, not even as a worker, but as someone who belongs to it, not because you claimed it, but because you gave yourself over to its patterns. There's a comfort in that, a place in the world, a role not written down but practiced day by day until it fits like a saddle well worn. You think of all the gears scattered across the steppe, round like yours, each with its own warmth, its own breath, its own stories being told or thought just like this. You picture the smoke curling up from their chimneys, vanishing into the sky that has no edges, and you wonder, how many others are lying down just like you, wandering quietly into the night? The thoughts slow, not from effort, just naturally, like water running out. You feel yourself fading towards sleep, not all at once, but in gentle layers. And as your mind softens, you let it carry one last picture, not of the past, not of the future, but of now, of this exact moment where everything is still and the wind has nothing left to say. Your eyes are closed, you're awake, but just barely. The weight of the blankets is enough to keep you still, not heavy, just enough to say, stay. The walls of the gear curve gently around you, not confining, protective. The felt holds in the last of the day's warmth. The wooden poles don't creak anymore. Everything has settled. The stove, once pulsing with life, is only a shape now, a dark outline near the centre. You can feel its presence more than see it. A single breeze finds its way through a seam in the wall covering. You feel it on your cheek, cool, then gone. Your breathing has slowed. You're not controlling it. It just happens. In, outside. Each inhale a little softer than the one before. The air inside the gear smells faintly of earth and wool. It's familiar in a way you don't think about until now. Not clean or fresh in the way of city air, but honest. You've breathed this scent for months, maybe years. You carry it with you, even when you leave. You shift once beneath the blanket, only slightly. Just enough to rest your arm across your chest. The movement is instinctive. You don't open your eyes. There's no need. Near the far side of the gear, someone else sighs in their sleep. A child, probably. The sound is light and unbothered. You don't know what they're dreaming, but you trust it's something good. Out here, there's space for that. You listen. You've heard all the sounds before, you could name them in your sleep. The breath of the dog curled by the door flap. The scrape of hoof on frozen ground just outside. the rhythmic flutter of the felt roof shifting slightly with the night air. Each one is quiet, each one is known, and the silence between them, it's not empty, it's whole, complete in itself, not waiting to be filled, just resting. You're part of it now, not watching from the edge, but fully inside it. Sleep isn't something you chase here, you let it find you, and it does, slowly, without pressure. It moves like the clouds earlier today, quiet, low, sure of itself. It wraps around you not as a wave, but as a mist, gentle, weightless, everywhere. Your fingers uncurl, your jaw softens, even your thoughts don't resist anymore. They aren't even thoughts now, just pieces of sensation. A warmth behind your knees, a whisper of wool at your neck, a memory of the sun on your back dissolving as quickly as it came. Nothing holds on, everything lets go. The darkness is perfect now, not frightening, whole, a darkness that belongs here, the kind that knows your name without needing to speak it. You don't think the word home, but the feeling is there, not sharp or sudden, just steady, like the ground beneath you, like the sky above, still holding the stars you saw hours ago. And just before your awareness disappears completely, you notice one last thing. The quiet hum of your own heartbeat, slow, calm, familiar, and then there's nothing more to notice. Only rest, only night, only sleep. Thank you for joining this peaceful day with us. May the calm of the steppe and the warmth of shared moments stay with you as you drift softly into rest. Until next time, sleep well and take care.